everybody, so new review for you guys today. We're talking about the upcoming aquatic thriller Underwater. So we're off to a bit of a rocky start in the month of January. We had The Grudge last week, but actually out of most of the films that come out in January, this is one of the ones I was most hopeful for, about this crew of underwater researchers scrambling to safety after this earthquake devastates their subterranean laboratory. And also there's monsters down there, which is kind of a fun little bonus, giving off vibes of Ridley Scott's Alien, Prometheus, The Descent, and stuff like The Abyss as well. The look and feel of Underwater is easily one of my favorite aspects to the film. The production design is top-notch here. The sets that they build for the laboratory that's underwater is actually really interesting, just because it enhances the claustrophobic atmosphere our characters are put in, but also mixing it really well with the sound design of the film as well. It has really good eerie sound. I think if you're going to see this, especially if you're going to see it in something like a Dolby format with really good speakers, it's going to enhance this film even more. This film also has a very small cast of characters that's pretty much just Kristen Stewart, Jessica Henwick, TJ Miller, Vincent Castle, and John Gallagher Jr. for the entirety of the film. I actually think for the most part they're all somewhat likable, especially Kristen Stewart. I definitely think she's the standout performance in this. She definitely gives it her all, and she probably shows the most range as far as anyone else in the cast. She's given the most to work with. Everyone else in the cast kind of just has really paper-thin personalities and not given too much depth to them, because a few of them are just meant to be there just because you need to get the body count rolling. And I have to say, for the film being PG-13, they do a really good job with those elements, with the deaths and all that. Some of them are actually quite creative and brutal. All of the performances, for the most part, were fine. The only one I really had any kind of problem with was TJ Miller, just because TJ Miller is kind of just here as the comic relief character, and his shtick just doesn't usually ever work for me anymore. It's just not funny, and the jokes that he's given don't really relieve any sort of tension that's built up. They're kind of just grown cringe kind of humor, and it just gets old after a while as the movie goes on. It has to be mentioned that a fair amount of the elements in Underwater are borrowed from other films in the sci-fi genre, predominantly Ridley Scott's Alien. There are several moments in this film that actually feel almost like homages to Alien in a way, whether it be the creatures or some of the characters and how they look and how they act. I mean, Kristen Stewart's character does kind of feel like a light version of Ripley from Alien. I mean, she's not as charismatic and cool as Ripley was, but Kristen Stewart is trying her best to try and be that kind of awesome, badass character that Ripley was. Kristen Stewart's character does get some badass moments in the film, though, just because the opening sequence is really awesome, and the ending sequence is actually pretty cool as well. It's just that middle portion of this movie where not much is going on with the storyline. It kind of just meanders as we're trying to get from base to base, and not much is going on. The tension's not there, and they almost feel like at certain points of the story, they don't feel like they know where to go, so we kind of just do nothing, which becomes kind of boring after a while. And that's the thing, this film has a really cool concept. It just almost feels at times they really just didn't know what to do with the concept in itself, and it almost feels like I said, they borrowed a little bit too much from Alien, Prometheus, and they tried to spin it with this underwater story where there's oil drilling and there's monsters. Keep in mind, these monsters, they're not on screen a whole lot. They actually are kind of shrouded in darkness for the most part, but you do get some good looks at them, and they're fairly interesting looking monsters. There's actually one towards the very end that my jaw dropped just with how big and cool this monster looked when they actually get a really good look at it. But it even felt like at times they didn't know what to do with the monsters as well, just because most of the time they're kind of just relegated to jump scare kind of horror. You don't really know what's going on because they jump right at the camera. You don't get a good look at them most of the time. But so it just becomes like a jump scare horror fest at times, which felt really weird with the contrasting tone of everything else that were being shown. But yeah, overall, I don't think Underwater is a great movie by any means, but I think there is enough fun to be had with it that you can go in and get some entertainment, whether it be from the suspense angle, the tension that's built, the creature action. There's enough there that can keep your interest for the most part, even though it does meander a little bit in the middle. It's actually one of the better releases in January I've seen in a very long time, so take that as a compliment if you want, just because January is usually not a very good month for movies, but I can definitely see myself rewatching this at some point down the line, just with a group of friends and a really good sound system. I think the good sound system will actually have a really good impact with this film if you see it. But those are just my thoughts on Underwater. Make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. What did you think of the film when you check it out this weekend? Did you like it? Did you not like it? And also, what is your favorite sci-fi movie? Because there's so many great sci-fi films, and I'm sure that everyone has at least a different one. Make sure you leave a comment, though. Let's get a discussion in the comments, to all things movies here. But thanks so much, as always, for checking out my videos. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. Hit that subscribe button if you want to keep updated with my reviews, show reactions, unboxings, and more. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.